Funded by the Community Radio Fund of Canada.
Hello, and welcome to our four-part podcast series featuring the Homalco First Nation and our sister nations from Vancouver Island and the surrounding coastal areas. I am Eric Wilson from the Homalco Reservation. Today I'm joined by Dominic Fody, Shailene Harry, Darren Blaney, Chelsea Hansen, and Rob Harry. This is episode 4. We're going to be talking about today and tomorrow of Homalco. It's going to be a forward-looking episode showcasing the current state of these communities, their achievements, and their own self-determination and future prosperity. Let's start here with the first question. What are some of the biggest accomplishments of the Homalco Nation in recent years?
I think one of the things that is really exciting me right now is the culture group. And as I understand it, it kind of started with Darren and a couple others, right?
Yeah, the canoe journey.
On the canoe journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just the amount of positivity and growth that it's seen in the last 2 or 3 years. Gerald, who's been one of the constant pillars of the culture group for the whole time it's been around. He has stories of sometimes it was just him in the bus loop by himself, maybe him and Preston or him and Rebecca or him and Dorothy, just 1 or 2, maybe 3 people. And now we get anywhere from 20, 30, sometimes 40 people on a regular week. We go every week. Rain or shine. It's just beautiful to see. And the growth, the interest from the kids is so strong. They always come up to me asking to do the songs, asking to do the dances. When are we dancing? When are we dancing? And to me, it's that pride coming back. One of the things that Gerald is really, Gerald is so, and how we do it is so freeing. He encourages us to try new things. It's okay to try new things. It's okay to try new things and to see if they work out or see if they don't work out. But all those things, like yesterday, we were at Culture Night and we started freestyling to a drum beat. And Gerald said, "You guys should do that at Protocol," which was, I'm not sure that would go over well, but the fact that we have that freedom and that openness to express ourselves is really beautiful. You see people start to take ownership over what they're doing. And yeah, the culture group is really, really growing. And not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of the maturity of the group and how much effort people put into it. So
Definitely.
that's one of the big successes. I'm lucky. I came in at a time to the group where it was just kind of reaching that peak interest, and by some amount of luck, people seem to be happy for me to jump into a leadership position, leadership role. But one of the things that we also do in the group, and one of the things that I strongly believe, is the fact that in our group, there's no one leader, but there's leadership displayed by everybody. And so one of the things that we always do is we have different people lead the songs. We have different people speak between songs, because sharing that load and sharing that responsibility teaches everyone how to do that. And everything that for me that I kind of want to do is building something that will outlive any one of us and go past into the future generations, right? So, and how do you do that? Is through sharing that load and teaching, fostering interest, and teaching the ones younger than yourself how to do it. And sometimes it's not even teaching them, just giving them the space to do it. Because some people, you give them the opportunity and they'll jump at the chance. You don't even have to tell them what to do, and they'll just go and do it in the way that they feel is right. And there's no wrong way of doing it, is one of the big things that I've learned.
Awesome. And I've seen you at Culture Nights. I love your enthusiasm.
I think when I look at it, there was a lot of shame in being First Nations, and that came from residential schools. And sometimes we think it's shyness that our people didn't want to sing. But now with the work that Dominic and the culture group are doing, is they're making it so that our kids, it's just part of who they are now. They're not what I used to call refugees to our culture because of the shame coming from residential school and not wanting to be First Nations or even Homalco. So I think it's a big step for us.
I agree. Huge step.
I think some of us were at the celebration of the cultural house in Clam, and they call it Aya. It's our house. And I think that it was so beautiful to be there, because it's not a big house and it's not a long house. It's something different. It's our house, right? And when it's talking to Drew about it, it seems so strange to say our house, because it feels like it's right now. It doesn't feel like that, but that truly was the intention. And even down to the carvings, they have 4 house posts, and each post represents one of the 4 sister nations. The fact that it's so open to being shared, and it is our house, even though it sounds so weird to say right now, but I think in a couple of years' time, after we do have more opportunity to use it and to share it, I think it will feel more true. But to be in a place where the rules and the traditions aren't set in place yet, and getting to form that together, I think we're in a really unique position. And that's what makes me excited for the future, is that we get to create these traditions together in a really communal and hopefully communal and hopefully healthy way that helps all of us.
Definitely. How is the community supporting language revitalization?
I think that we're so fortunate to have knowledge keepers that were willing to pass down that knowledge, and then also having younger generations that were willing to learn. And also we have a really great team that has contributed to moving that forward and inspiring a willingness to want to learn the language and to carry it forward.
Excellent.
Yeah. When I think of the language revitalization, there are key people that I think of that have been really monumental in the revitalization of the language. And one of those is my grandmother. She used to go into the schools and teach the language. And unfortunately, I was always ahead, like my grade was always ahead. And then they would start, so they started after I left Georgia Park. She came in and she started teaching, and then I left Southgate, and then she came in and started teaching at Southgate. And so it was a little bit too late for me to be able to catch on to that. But I'm really glad that it did start and that it started when it did, because honestly, like, we're nothing without our language. Our language is foundational to who we are, and it's imperative to the future success of our people. Same with culture, they go hand in hand. And there's been a lot of work that has been done over the years. Another person is Marilyn Harry as well too. Like, she's done so much work. So has James O'Rourke, so has Dominic, and so many other language staff over the years as well too. And it's really encouraging to see what is happening with language and culture, because I take comfort in knowing that my future children will have opportunities that I didn't have growing up in the community. Seeing the language spoken, hearing it spoken, seeing the language here, or seeing the culture, and hearing culture being practiced in the community, there's no greater feeling.
I agree.
And I think one of the things too is just how much time it takes to build momentum, but it almost feels sometimes like things go too fast now. The opportunities are coming, they're so big, and it feels like we're at a point, this kind of tipping point, where, same way in the culture group, where it's just going to carry itself, into the future. There's a couple things I think that need to fall into place for that to be true for language, but for me, I said I'm here until that happens, right? Until we have that it propels itself. I think it's really important. My granny is a fluent speaker, and being able to work with her has been such a joy and so special to me. I think one of the things that I'm really privileged to experience is the fact that I have that bond, and I didn't know about the language growing up. I didn't know about it. I grew up in Alberta, and my granny was with me in Alberta. Until I was 25, I didn't know that she even spoke another language. And then fast forward now, 4 years, and then there's so many people who say that, like, just the progress is so quick. And I think a lot of that is like, we had to start from something. We had to start from building all these things up. And then also growth isn't just always linear, right? You have struggles and you have setbacks. And we've definitely in the language group had setbacks from when we've started, from when the language work has started. There's been setbacks. But there's also been continued growth in spite of that. And my hope, there's some people who I've talked to, and they're surprised, or kind of surprised at how much I've been able to learn. And I think a lot of that is from everything that's been built up over time, I've been able to benefit from. And my hope is that in 10, 15, 20 years, we have a generation of learners where they learn so quickly that I'll be jealous of them, of how quickly they get to learn and how much they get to learn. It's switch gears here. The thing that I think is really important to teach, not just how to speak, but why we speak. Because there's still in the community a disconnection between language, and there's so many things that tell you in the world, outside, inside, all over, there's reasons not to learn, right? It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of time. Sometimes it's just kind of, there's so many things that tell you shouldn't do this, but the benefits are so large. It's just about showing people this is why you do it. And my belief is that if you create the desire to continue learning, then our job is done for us. We don't have to worry about getting people into classes or getting people into learning their language because they'll seek it for themselves.
Yes, definitely.
I think when I think back, I was thinking about the when I was growing up. I only spoke our culture, our language when I was young, and when I went to school, like I was learning English as a second language. And I think when the teachers at the day school, they thought I wasn't listening, but I didn't understand them, and they'd come over and slap me, knock me on the ground. And then when I got to residential school, I was still learning a lot of new words in English that I didn't quite understand. So it was a bit of a challenge, kind of almost in the reverse direction, trying to pick up the language of the English. And I think it was, it gave me a chance to, when I was in residential school, I would try to remember our language by sounding out the words in my head. And coming back to the community, there was lots of people that still spoke in our language. So it kind of started reviving the language that was there that I hadn't used because I lived in Vancouver. There's not much opportunity to speak our language. And so when it got back to the community, it was much more common. And then you got younger generation that are so enthusiastic about the language. And my son's always sending me a message on my iPhone. How do you say this? So I'll record it 3 times for him, say it to him. And then now I'm remembering some obscure words that we hardly use in our language. So I think, they're working on the dictionary of our language. And I think through this revitalization, some of those obscure words are probably missed in the bigger dictionary that the Laamen are working on. So I think we can help fill in a lot of the language there. And I think the work that was done to put the language on the computer rather than like what Sechelt did and Squamish did. They put it in almost like a hardcover book, and really doesn't really serve the purpose that well. Having it on computer and whatever, you can sound out the words for you. You just press the button and it says the word. And I think that keeps the integrity of the language a little stronger because there's lots of, and I don't like it when people make fun of the mispronunciation of words. It feels like that's discouraging. Yeah. But to have it available on the computer, it kind of gives you that guidance on how to pronounce the words. And we don't want to be discouraging young people from learning the language.
Definitely.
When I was 3 years old, that's all I spoke, according to my mom. Didn't know anything about the English language at all. The funny thing is, my foster grandmother, Louise from Comox, she taught me English. And I didn't speak the native tongue for a long time. Well, you couldn't in residential school and stuff like that. But when I got back to Sliammon and I come back to here, I remembered a lot. It was like it stays inside you until you really, really needed to come out. That's what I felt. I mean, I don't speak the language that well when I asked Dominic to teach me. But it is amazing how much words I understood and how many words I can say after 50 years of not talking to it. So it's something inside you that makes you feel good to do it. And if you search long enough, you're going to get more of it coming out, which I am, because Chief always speaks native tongue all the time. And I say, huh? But I'm starting to learn it now, so it's great. So I just let you know that if you spoke it once, you can speak it again.
It's internalized, for sure. What are the priorities in Homalco's current governance and development strategies?
How much time do you have?
Yeah. I think the for me anyway, the biggest priority I have right now is almost like an economic independence. And the biggest piece of that puzzle right now is the hydro project. We get that hydro in place, we get the revenues in place, then I think our only problems will be decision making and making the right decisions on our direction in the future. Right now, we are dependent on the government. We are dependent on grants and proposals.
Yeah.
And that's not freedom for us. I think our freedom is when we make decisions on our future and our direction, then we can really be a government, the self-governing government. So I think, like I said, the hydro, and we're dealing with forestry right now. I don't know what kind of future forestry has based on climate change. And I think from there, it'll start. The opportunities will present themselves in terms of where we invest our money, whether that's in real estate. I'd like us at one point to have $1 billion worth of real estate. But when we went down to the Maoris, they had like $2 billion in real estate. So I felt like we set our sights a little bit low. But at some point, we'll be there. And it'll be how we invest our resources that our future generations are looked after.
Excellent. How is youth leadership being cultivated within the nation?
We have a few things on the go right now. And I think that right now we have a bit of a prodigious focus on our youth, especially with the state of emergency that we're in. I think that most of us are on high alert in making sure that we are empowering them and how we're, helping to support future leaders. We've got a youth recreation policy that we're working on, which will provide funding for youth to participate in recreational activities and not just sports, but, arts and all sorts of things. And we're working on making it available for youth in the community and also outside of community as well. There's a big relationship between youth that can participate in recreational activities and being able to find success and to feel confident in themselves. And I think that that's really important. So I think that we're on track to be presenting this at our AGM, which is really exciting. And we're also working on a youth council as well. And I think that, we have so many youth that just have so much in them. And, we all come from, generations of trauma. And sometimes it's hard to feel like you can accomplish things. And I think that by creating a community of youth that can come together and figure out what they're good at and what inspires them, we're setting them up for success to be leaders in the future and to empower them and to bring them into positions where they can, have a say. Because really everything that we're doing today is for their future. And it's really important that we're, setting them up for success to be able to have the future that they deserve.
Yeah, I think everyone at this table is very passionate about the youth in the community and also outside of the community as well, because at the end of the day, we all just want every Homalco member to be as happy and successful as possible. And every one of our kids has so much potential, and it's just a matter of making sure that they are feeling confident enough to go after what their goals are, no matter how big or small they are. There's so much that can be done in the world, and there's so much that can be seen, and our kids deserve to see that. They deserve to see their goals become reality.
I agree.
I think when I look back on what the goals of residential school was, it was that, that grade 3 level education to to be the laborers of this economy, and our people were shortchanged a lot. And I think there was not a lot of effort to build the esteem of our kids. They always felt like they weren't good enough, or they were dumb, or whatever it was. But I think the work that's being done in the daycare right now with the daycare coming, the Montessori program in there, I think that's going to be a huge uplift to the kids that, you in the Montessori, they work with the strength of the kids. What are their gifts? You work with that, and then that self-esteem spills over into other areas of their upbringing. I think that's a really important step to work with. I think that when you take a look at our youth, I think when I remember talking to a school counselor when she said that Homalco kids are already given up on themselves by grade 2. And that was it was heartbreaking to hear that. And to have our kids already feeling like they're not worth it at 2. And then they got the residential schools where parents didn't know how to be parents, didn't know how to invest in their kids. And then when you don't have that, you're kind of like, your esteem is low, but your boundaries are you don't really have boundaries. If nobody loved you as a kid, you don't really have boundaries that are healthy. So when those kids start getting abused because they have no boundaries, then that's just another generation of trauma. But I think the other part of, I think that as a leadership, it's important that we've talked about it before, about bringing kids along to some of the work we're doing in our negotiations so that they understand they can get a sense of what's involved in some of the negotiations, like say hydro or treaty or fisheries or all these things in forestry. So we don't have it formalized yet, but I think over time we'll start to define it and refine it so that the kids can have an opportunity to see where we're going.
Excellent. Yes.
I think one of the things too that is so with the kids, the young ones, we talk about the struggles. I find that they're so localized to they're like ways that they exist outside of the community. And when you see them in community, they're really just completely different people, right? When you see them in a place where they're comfortable, where they're happy, and then you see them in a place where they're not fully supported or they don't feel fully, for some reason, they don't feel fully safe, They don't feel like they can be themselves. I am always so surprised when I see the kids in community, how mature they are, how much they model healthy behaviors, and how much of that they do in spite of the conditions that they're growing up in, right? Like I don't know where they get some of these really healthy and positive behaviors, but they show them. And I think it's so beautiful that they have that. Because sometimes I think that the kids could teach their parents how to act, right? I don't know where they get it from, but I'm so glad they have it. I think it's that type of thing where you're just born with. And sometimes over the course of all these different pressures, you start to, and that weathering or wearing down of your well-being, you can start to forget those things. But the younger ones, I've really learned as much from them as I have our elders in community. And then I think just outside in the community, there's different things that prevent them from being who they are. and that's really unfortunate. But they do have that potential in them.
Definitely.
Just one other thing I'm thinking about is, that when we grew up with now intergenerational trauma, you look at the kids that are suffering now, it's like they are stuck in survival mode. So they don't get to learn to their fullest capacity in terms of what their goal setting is, what they want to be when they grow up, the dreams that are kind of get lost when they're trying to survive. So I think as we heal our people out of the chaos, we can start to give the kids a better chance. So the parents will have to heal and the kids will have a much better chance.
Yes. Sounds fascinating. Definitely, I agree with that. What role does ecotourism, such as grizzly bear viewing, play in economic self-sufficiency?
Okay. All right. I think when the grizzly bear tour started out, I think there was a level of intimidation back in the very early days. When I got elected chief, it was only half a season old. We didn't get the whole season. Then the next year we came, and then I think what it brought to our community in terms of people wanting to learn the culture, the young people that started getting into the culture and the stories, I think that was worth any money we could have had or made at the time. But now it's making money. It's making probably $1 million, 1.5 million. So those things are giving us the opportunity to grow. And then now they're winning awards. So before there wasn't quite the confidence there, but to hear us winning award after award, it really gives an uplift to the staff. I mean, take a look at Cassie. When she first started out, she was just so shy and meek and hardly hear a peep out of her. But now she's got confidence, and that's worth more than any money we can make from tourism. That kind of gift to our community that you kind of get to see what their potential is. And then she's gone through and done some university level training. Probably she never thought she would be there, but she's done university level training and done well. So all those things that are kind of extra gifts to our community is really worthwhile.
Oh, definitely. It's
One of
incredible.
the advantages of the tours is when you have, is we have people on board that are telling the history of Homalco to non-native people and people from all over the place. And that's, so we went on a trip one time and we had, this is Kelvin with a K. He was telling us stories about everywhere we went. It was a fantastic tour. And the knowledge that he has been spread out to a lot of other people. It's really important that you understand your territory, what it's all about, where you can go, where you can't go, sacred areas, everything. So that our meeting and our trip was one of the best trips I ever had, just listening to him. So a lot of people in the forest, I mean, in the bear tours, are getting more and more knowledge about everything, and it's so nice to see.
Yes, I agree. I've seen some of that myself, and it is a very beautiful thing to witness. Definitely. What are the community's goals for housing, education, and culture preservation over the next decade?
I think housing is always feels like an ongoing issue, and I think the work that needs to be done in housing is, I think our new houses are pretty choppy, so we're always behind the 8 ball in terms of getting new houses. And then I think we have another issue with rental arrears. And we're a small community, so we don't have our all of our house in order to deal with housing. So we kind of end up with some pretty huge rental arrears. And then you have elder abuse, where elders or grandkids taking money from elders and they don't pay rent. And then there's other people that don't pay rent. And the problem with our rental arrears is we are, I think we're about over 80% on social assistance. And if we're going to deal with rental arrears, you can't expect people on social assistance to get caught up on the rental arrears. So I was talking to a chief from up north, and he said social housing is a poverty mindset. And he said what their nation did was to take the money and they buy the house, and then they turn it over to the people that own it. And then they become responsible for looking after the house so that they're not phoning the band office all the time or destroying the house in order to whatever drinking goes on or stuff like that. So, for us, we pay about $85,000 a lot in renovations when people move out. So I think that's a big problem for us. And as for education, I think we have a lot of people that are, post-secondary educated, and that's an investment the nation made in ourselves. We've invested in the nation. I think it's important that we continue that. And for that reason, we don't say no to anyone that wants to go to get higher education. But now I think with the hydro coming, we're going to have to look at trades, building up skills and Red Seal certified workers in trades. And once they get the training, I'm hoping some of them will go and form businesses. I have a friend of mine in Stalo. He's got his own company and he's got 125 employees in heavy equipment. And I would love to see that in our community, that we can have somebody that will have that initiative to start a company and get rich.
Absolutely.
On the topic of education, I think I was so surprised to learn that it wasn't just the norm that everyone gets post-secondary funded. I was so surprised that other places have waiting lists or long application processes and things like that. The fact that for me, I was able to get, without the band support, I wouldn't be able to get post-secondary education. And that was also one of the things that brought me here, was the fact that I had done post-secondary, but I'd never been to community. And I didn't even know what my community looked like. So going to post-secondary and then feeling feeling like I just needed to go back to show my gratitude to the people who made that possible. I think at the time it was Allison who was education and Jamie were in education. Jamie Wilson, who helped me through that, and Brenda, our current education person, is just doing so amazing. Because one of the things that I struggled with my first year was I did so poor in my classes. I dropped 4 courses over the first year so I could keep my C average and keep my funding going.
Please get degrees.
Because I think they say at the time the rule was that if you have to be of a passing grade. Mm-hmm. So I was looking at my grades and it's like, well, I'm not going to pass this. I'll drop that one. I'll drop that one. But Brenda is really, really good about constant check-ins with the students. And eventually, after my first year, and I learned like, well, I'm not doing so well, and I'm getting this thing I should be putting effort into. I started the slow climb of my grades from D's to C's and B's, and then I ended up, because of that, I ended up in my last year doing an honors project and continuing into research after, and all that I just wouldn't have been able to do without the opportunity, but also without the kind of like flexibility that I had and the ability to make mistakes in my first year, because I learned from those. And I was so surprised. I came back in 2022 for the first time, and I met Richard for the first time, and I asked him, why does the band support anybody in terms of post-secondary, and what do you expect to get out of that? And he said, just that they go like succeed, right? That they go live their lives. Not that you have to come back, but to me I was like, that's not enough, because I do have to come back. So, and it turns out that both of those things, like going back and living my life, was the same thing.
I think even for me, as someone who grew up in the community, I still felt the need or the desire to come back to the community, to show my gratitude to our leadership and to our community for providing me with that opportunity to have my education paid for as well too, because I was extremely grateful for that, and also because I wanted to motivate other people in the community to go and get an education as well too, to show them what is possible. Because I think that that's really important. And when I first came back and I was the nurse in the community, I had a lot of kids that were coming to me and asking me about being a nurse and showing interest in that. And I was telling them about what a great career it could be, and, the different areas that you could go into. And, even if you didn't like blood, there was still an area in nursing that you could go into, which a lot of people don't realize. And it's also important to acknowledge too the imposter syndrome that you can feel when you're going to university and you're surrounded by people that you feel are so much better equipped to succeed in life, and knowing that that our people can succeed and they can do really well, and that it's okay to feel that, and it's okay to struggle. Like Dominic shared with us that he struggled a bit. Like, that's all normal and that's all okay. Like, it's how you respond to that, and knowing who your support system is, and that it's not whether you stumble or whether you fall, it's how you pick yourself up afterwards, because that is what makes Homalco people so strong, right? We're so good at being resilient, and education got us into this mess. It'll get us out of it.
True.
I think there's a bit of work. We had a kind of it must have been some kind of brainstorming in one of our counseling sessions, councils meeting. We haven't moved on it yet, but we talked about the high cost of rent, and that our living allowance cannot sustain the high rents that we're dealing with. And we talked about having kind of a little apartment building in, say, Nanaimo or Victoria or somewhere by UBC or SFU, and those kind of things, so that we can help our students to take one less stress off of them, that they can give them a better chance to succeed. And I think it's important that, and one of the things about going to school is you only build up when you go out of your comfort zone. And that's kind of that thing that you push yourself in school, and you're out of your comfort zone. And I'm the same. I mean, when I went to college after I got out of residential school, it was a real strain for me, and I didn't get taught how to take notes. And that was just chicken scratch for me. I was trying to take his notes fast. I was used to teachers writing out the notes on the board, and I just copy it. But when I got to Langara, it was all writing as fast as I could, but it took me a while to get the rhythm and the study habits you needed to get done through school. So I think those kind of skills we kind of acquired in school and learned how to get through. Without that, it's pretty tough to get through school.
Oh, yes. I know it's uphill both ways. Right? How do Homalco members envision reclaiming and strengthening traditional knowledge?
Culture.
So for me, a big piece of my work and the work in the culture is always, I talk to my granny a lot about what she thinks is important, and not just my granny, but other elders too, when I can. And I think there's a general consensus that there's a lot of there's certain things that are really precious in the culture, very, very precious, that shouldn't be forgotten. But there's also certain things that are very difficult to continue doing. Certain things that bring up difficult emotions or become kind of really tough to deal with, right? Like we talk about church house and how going back to church house for a lot of people brings up a lot of stuff. And for some people, church house is a positive place, and for other people, it's very, very much has all these different bad memories that are associated with it. So I think being sensitive to those things is really important. What I was told by my granny is that we can carry on the spirituality of the past, but move it forward into something new. And I think that's where it's this as a conversation or this kind of back and forth between things from the past and things in the future. Where we kind of meet in the middle on that is I think requires a lot of community engagement, and it requires everybody to be present to that. That reclamation of traditional practices is really, it's really delicate stuff, and slowly but surely, I think we're going in a really good direction. One of the things that we've kind of been looking at is start to bring back like different celebrations that we can do together, different opportunities to uplift each other and to get together to celebrate each other, and not just, there's so much, it's so easy to fall into negativity, but there's a lot to celebrate. And I think that's one of the really strong places for the culture group to be supporting is those celebrations. For the culture group, I think of how we kind of model leadership and model sharing in the community, right? I think that we're doing something it's new to us, but it's informed by our elders and this ability for us to create culture. I think anything that we do together is Homalco culture. And yeah, we all have an opportunity to play a part in that, and that's what makes it exciting to me. Is that we all have a voice, and the more voices that we can get together, the stronger it is. The more that we can build unity and consensus, not just within the nation, but with our neighbors and our sister nations, it gets really strong and really powerful. And I think we've started to see that happen, and it's really beautiful to see. Yeah, we're doing something really exciting and precious. And
Definitely. So, what partnerships or alliances are being built with neighboring communities or the city of Campbell River?
one of the things that with the language work that I've been part of is it heavily benefits from relationships with neighboring communities and educators. The ability to work with people we all have different strengths, and when we bring them together, we are able to do so much more. It's greater than the sum of its parts, right? I'm working with the Cortez Island Academy on different camps to run for middle schoolers, because the Cortez Island Academy is this really neat alternative school that open to kids from Homalco. In fact, I think we might have one this year, I hope. And they do really amazing work. But because of the fact that our kids don't have contact with them, they don't know it's an option to them, and it's quite new, we've had a little challenges getting kids out there, even though it might be a better opportunity for them to learn and to grow by being over there. And the kids that I've taken say that they kind of wish that they were able to do this, right? It's a really neat program. So we started middle school camps we're working on together, and I just come in. They have all this administrative support, organization, things like that I don't have to worry about. I just have to worry about getting a handful of kids together and getting out and teaching language. And more for me, teaching language is kind of becoming, I can just give me a date and time and I'll be there and I'll be able to do something because of having taught now for 2 years. I have enough resources built up that I can kind of just pull from something in the past. So building relationships with not just other Indigenous institutions, but institutions that are interested in reconciliation and interested in working together. I think that's another thing that has made so much of the work that I do possible, is just kind of asking for favors around town, asking for favors from the band office or from Shay. And there's a lot of people interested in helping, and so many people are happy to see us out there. Like Reed Island is another one. Getting to work with the Reed Island School and getting to work with the Reed Island community, of which there's about 70 people living off-grid, and they have such beautiful facilities. We're running a language camp there at the end of summer, and the teacher there, who's worked there for 25 years, I believe, she said as long as she's worked at the school, she'd never seen a summer camp and a summer school happen at Reed, and this is going to be the first time our language camp over in Reed Island. So, and they're just so keen to help, and it gives us so much more freedom when we don't have to think about the whole picture. If we can think about maybe 1/4 of it, 1/4 of it, or half of it even, it makes the amount of work we have to do a lot less. It makes our ability to deliver meaningful programs so much easier than it would be otherwise if we didn't have those supports.
Yeah, there's
Absolutely.
definitely strength in numbers for sure. And I think that communication and collaboration between sister nations, neighboring nations, other Indigenous organizations, other non-Indigenous organizations, there's really only could be a benefit from that. And Homalco, like, we're always so open and eager to do whatever is needed for the community and to help support each other. So we're always open to those opportunities as they come. And like Dominic said, going and approaching people, that's something that, all of our staff do, and probably even community members. Because, if you don't start the conversation, if you don't reach out, then you never know what could have happened or what could have been. So it's really important to be looking out for those opportunities and to really capture them.
I think when I take a look at the work that's coming through our hydro project, 10 to 14 billion or more coming into this area from our hydro project, we can really influence the economy of North Island, our sister nations, including Comox. And on Sunday and Monday, we're going up to talk to the nations on North Island to talk to them about capacity building and employment opportunities coming in the hydro project. From a 2,000-man camp, we can create quite an economy up there. And my goal is kind of if we can replace the fish farms with some other economy, I'd be happy with that. And I think there's work that's coming. I mean, Homalco is work with the city in some ways, and we work same with the Reed Island in terms of forestry, and we're looking at working with even David at Fawn Bluff through tourism, through language camps, but also looking at how we manage the forests in our territory. And we're trying to work at it so that he gets to maintain the greenery across from him. And same with the people at Reed Island. How do we work together in forestry that doesn't have to be intensive logging? Right now, we're looking at kind of climate change and how that's kind of, when the trees are too close together, clumped up, the fire just rages right through them. But if we start to thin it out in logging so that the fire will come, and when the trees are all kind of spread out a bit more, the fire doesn't have any fuel to carry on. So we're kind of getting ready for climate change. And the people in Sturt Island, all the billionaires in Sturt Island, we're looking at bringing back some electricity for them so they don't have to run on diesel anymore. So we can develop a closer relationship. When I was up there for a fundraiser for the Gilliard Pass, I went up there and they asked me to do a bit of a talk on our history, what Homalco means and how that's our territory. So I explained that to them, and a lot of them came up and thanked me and didn't really know the Homalco history in the area. So we're kind of educating people on who we are in the territory. And I think it's only going to build closer connections. And in the forest business, we have lots of potential for partnerships. We just have to figure out which one is the best for us and make it work for the benefit of Homalco people and also our tourism as well. So lots of opportunities, sir.
Great.
One of our things that we've been blessed with is partnerships with other people. For instance, the Reed Island, there's 47 acres that was gifted to Homalco. And you have at Murrell, 67 acres gifted to Homalco from people we don't even know. They just know that we're the owners of, that's our land. And with David from Fawn Bluff, he called out to us. We met him a few times, and relationship between David and us is growing and is getting better, and it's a really good thing.
No doubt. That's incredible. Really happy to hear that. What message would Homalco leaders like to send to future generations about identity and self-determination?
You believe in yourself.
Shoot
You
for
know,
the stars.
You got a lot of stuff in your body and your mind that should make you really, really proud. That you're so proud and you want to do anything, you can do anything.
That's true.
I think one of the things that I hear, doesn't matter where I go, in Vancouver or in Ottawa, is leaders would always get up and say, know who you are and know where you come from. And that's just being connected to your territory. And it's a big block of self-esteem. We'd like to have kids that have self-esteem, and knowing where you belong is one thing. Having mastery, something you're good at. Independence, you have to have independence and generosity. Those are the things that Mark and Broken Leg talks about in terms of a good self-esteem. If we can have kids that have pretty solid self-esteem, they'll have a much better chance of success for us. And so I think our work right now in trying to get economic independence is to be able to provide the opportunity for our kids to have good, strong self-esteem. And that kind of goes with the culture. The culture teaches you where you come from. And knowing your territory is a big start to that. And that's what I tell our guardians. You guys will be the experts in the territory. The province and the feds will be deferring to your knowledge and expertise in the territory. So those things, I think, we will be the experts in our territory. And that really kind of shows our ownership. I remember when I went and got Homalco joined up with Turning Point. Gujao from Haida moved that Homalco becomes part of Turning Point. And Ross Wilson from Bella Bella, they moved and seconded it, and I thanked them. And I told them, your ownership of your territory is really inspiring for me. And that's what we have to have. Homalco has to have a sense of ownership of our territory. And I think that ownership will clear up a lot of things for us. I think we've been ignored a lot in our territory, and so we're trying to turn that tide around so that, and even around Campbell River here, it feels like our neighbors think they own it, but we've always shared. So we call it shared territory, and we'll share it with them.
Yes, definitely. Well, that concludes episode 4.
Sorry, just one last thing I just wanted to kind of throw in there, because Robert, when we talk about identity, I think that, Shay also mentioned imposter syndrome earlier. And I think that, everything that our people have gone through as far as having our culture and our identity stripped from us, our identity is so important. And when you struggle with that sense of self and not knowing where you come from and all of these barriers to who we are and our land and our language, that really plays a role in how we see ourselves and in that self-confidence and that understanding that we can do things. And I think that if there's a message to throw out there to other people, it's that, you have a whole nation here that wants to support you and help you find that identity and to help bring you back and to love you and to help uplift you. And that, you have value and you have worth and you're worthy of being loved and you're worthy of connecting with your culture. And no matter whether you're close enough to be able to do that or you're far and you're trying to do it on your own, you're doing the right thing by trying to connect in whatever capacity you can. And there's no right or wrong way to do that. And as long as you're utilizing the tools that are available to you, you're on the right path. And, I think that I can kind of speak for Homalco in saying that, we're here and we want you to have that sense of self and that identity, and we want to uplift you in all of those ways.
It's important to know that they're never alone, and that, like Chelsea said, that they're they have a whole nation behind them that's here to support them, and there can be drama within the community and there can be different dynamics, but for a lot of us, the desire to help the community is to help the community as a whole. Doesn't matter who you are, who your family is, what your last name is. That doesn't matter. For me, it personally anyways, I'm willing to help anyone as much as I can. And so my phone, my office door, it's always available. If anybody ever wants to talk about, what it's like to go to university or even owning a business or anything like that, I'm always open and available to provide any advice or support that I can, because it can be really difficult. I mean, there's a lot of information out there now with the internet and with social media and stuff, but those things can also have a lot of negative impacts as well too. That's can be very competitive and it can be overwhelming and it can make people feel isolated and alone and like they're not worthy. But everyone, whether you're an Indigenous youth from Homalco, an adult, an elder, it's never too late to go and to try and meet your dreams. So do whatever you can to do that, and we're here to support you. Yeah.
I think for me, when I used to really get almost angry when people would make fun of Homalco people. It felt like we were beaten down enough, and people would choose the worst parts of Homalco to make fun of us, and to see the pride coming back. It's really inspiring to see the pride really coming back, and our people are becoming solid. And I think it's an important step for us to take.
I agree. Definitely. It's
We've been
beautiful to see.
oppressed, by systems for so long that it's so can be overwhelming for people to try and think of how to get out of that. But it is really important to try and to not be taking those seriously, because I think that there's so much positive going on for Homalco right now, and change doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. But that there is a lot of positive things that are happening, and most of that is driven by the desire to provide that support for the youth and to see them succeed.
I think one of the things was when we first issued our state of emergency, and we were feeling so bad about all the young people that we lost. But, just when I had to take a step back and look at all the ones that are being successful, the young people, they're just like amazing. Our future is looking good. We kind of get focused on those young women that lost their lives. But if we take a look at all the other ones in the community that are doing well, we got lots of bright stars in the community, and that's really encouraging. So I think we're going on the right track, but it's going to take a bit of work to get us there, but I think we're going in the right direction.
I agree. That's excellent. Well, then that concludes episode 4 of our 4-part podcast series. Thank you all for listening. Thank you guys for being here. Rob, Chelsea, Darren, Shailene, Dominic. I'm Eric Wilson from the Homalco Reservation. And a special thank you to Community Radio Fund of Canada for making this podcast possible. Thank you all for listening. Emote.